This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology. The images are for illustration purposes only. Even Shui Junwei's chest was hit by the force of the hammer. He spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying a few hundred meters. His face was pale. However, there was more surprise and excitement in his eyes at this moment. Although a few martial supremes had died, their longtime enemies had finally been eliminated at this moment. Long Valley City was finally under the control of the Shui family. After calming down a little, Shui Junwei looked at Yun Xiao, who was still condensing rules and absorbing Emperor Qi not far away. His mind, which had just calmed down, was once again stirred by a huge wave, and the shock he felt was beyond words. The process of ordinary people condensing Emperor Qi did not take long, but it was extremely dangerous and critical. Not only was Yun Xiao fighting while condensing Emperor Qi, but the process seemed to be going on. All the martial supreme powerhouses present looked at each other. They did not know what was going on. They had all been martial supremes before and had never known that a martial supreme could advance so easily. After being stunned for a moment, Shui Junwei immediately gave the order to search the entire city for the Xian family's remnants. All the direct and branch family descendants of the Xian family were to be killed without mercy. As for the guest elders, if they were willing to switch to the Shui family, they could live. Otherwise, they would be killed without mercy. The entire Long Valley city was quickly silenced under the terror of high pressure. The Xian family had been in the city for thousands of years, and had produced countless descendants. If they were all eliminated at once, it would be no different from a small-scale massacre. However, in the realm of heavenly martial arts, such exterminated events happened every day, so it was not rare. With the death of Xianzuoren and his nephew, there was no more external interference. Yun Xiao stood quietly in the sky, feeling the familiar laws of heaven and earth. This was the third time he had advanced to the martial sovereign realm in his second life. The last time, due to his physical injury and insufficient origin power in the ultimate, he had failed to force his way through. If it were not for the Great One Celestial Qi that had completely healed his injuries, it was likely that anyone else would not have the possibility of advancing in this life. At this moment, he was already very familiar with this. He slowly gathered the Emperor Qi and felt the changes in the Yuan power in his body. His domain of strength had long been above the Emperor Qi of the Nine Heavens. At this moment, the changes in his body did not bring him the slightest surprise. Instead, he frowned more and more, as if he was thinking about something. Yun Xiao performed an incantation gesture with one hand and suddenly transformed into a three-headed and six-armed Dharma idol. The original Dharma idol's eyes were closed and his face was calm, while the other two Dharma idols had different expressions. One of them had a ferocious face, while the other had a kind face. Furthermore, the incantation seals on his 6 arms were different, but they were all extremely strange. Under the ferocious face of the Dharma power, the seals on his hands became faster and faster. Under the cover of the red mist, black qi appeared and condensed into a ball in his hands. Demonic patterns began to appear on the Dharma power. Under the other Dharma power, the hand seal did not change. Instead, a ball of soft Emperor Qi was held in the palm of the Dharma power. It was like a beautiful jade, and it mixed with the surrounding red clouds. The Dharma power kept flashing with the color of gold. Suddenly, Yun Xiao's true form opened his eyes and murmured a few strange characters. Demonic runes began to appear on his 3 heads and 6 arms, and the Emperor aura that had been lingering around him suddenly changed into a monstrous demonic flame, burning under the red glow. The eyes of his original form flickered as he slowly formed seals with his hands. Every move was extremely slow but stable. At this moment, the shadow of a black hole seemed to appear behind his 3-headed and 6-armed Dharma form. It was madly devouring the multicolored light in the sky and continuously growing stronger. The shadow of the black hole gradually grew larger, turning into a giant that slowly stood up. Its head reached the sky, and its feet stood on the ground. Its entire body was pitch black, but its face could not be seen clearly. Shui Junwei's feelings were indescribable at this moment. He looked at the black giant's face with his divine consciousness of a 6 stars martial sovereign, but all he saw was an endless darkness that seemed to devour everything. It gave him a sense of horror. He was not the only one. All the martial emperor powerhouses broke out in cold sweat. They were all martial emperors, so why was there such a huge difference between them? He was on the line between life and death, but looking at others was like playing. It was a pity that the Fiend Lord's clone in Yunxiao's body had turned into the purest energy and was absorbed when the Great One's celestial chi washed through his meridians, and the Fiend's consciousness had completely dissipated. Otherwise, if he had seen it, he would have recognized the divine ability as the true Fiend Dharma recorded on the piece of metal. After the black shadow appeared behind him, Yunxiao gradually stopped the incantation gesture. He maintained his posture and let the clouds in the sky gather, while the black demonic aura around him grew stronger and stronger. A moment later, Yunxiao changed the incantation gesture in his hand, and the huge demonic shadow behind him gradually faded and finally disappeared in the air. The demonic patterns on his body had also receded, and the Emperor Qi of the 9 heavens surrounded his body. The power of rules was evident in his every movement. All the martial emperor powerhouses swallowed with difficulty. Yunxiao's calm and composed movements did not look like he had just broken through to the martial emperor realm. Instead, he seemed to be more skilled than them. At this moment, everyone remembered Yunxiao's words, just a martial supreme. Now, it seemed that he was indeed a martial supreme in his eyes. The entire process of advancement lasted for more than 2 hours, and the entire valley was shrouded in a red mist. For a time, it became a hot topic on the streets, along with the extermination of the Xian family. After a long time, the strange phenomenon disappeared and the sky returned to normal. Shuai Junwei swallowed, then hurriedly flew up into the air, cupped his hands at Yunxiao, and said with a smile, "Congratulations to Lord Yunxiao for stepping into the 9 heavens martial emperor realm. Now, there's another great figure who can rule the world in the world." As a 6 stars martial emperor and a hero, it was unprecedented for him to flatter a young man who had just stepped into the martial emperor realm. However, the military commander did not feel that it was out of place at all. Rule the heavens and earth? It's far from enough. Yunxiao snorted coldly, as if he did not appreciate her kindness at all. His eyes narrowed slightly as he looked into the distant sky, as if he could see a familiar figure walking further and further away in the lonely sky. His eyes flickered with a little light, and that surging mood slowly calmed down. To him, the path of martial arts had only just begun. In the battle between the ages of earth and the heavens, Tianxi had comprehended the power of the world and obtained the ancestral spirit's return to dust. He was already unrivaled in this world. Even if he could recover to his peak strength from his previous life, he would not be able to win. The only way was to become stronger. He would only have the ability to take revenge if he made further progress in his previous life and charged into the legendary 10 Directions divine realm. Yunxiao slowly sorted out the things that happened in Red Moon City in his mind. It was very likely that the master of Red Moon City, who had left the divine skill of 10 Directions on the throne, was no longer his main body, but a puppet controlled by Yutong. However, the moon pupil had never expected that there would be a human who could control the moon pupil and use it. It was because the moon pupil was very difficult to be controlled by humans. Even Gu Feiyang, who was a peak 9 stars martial emperor, had become extremely violent and his mind was devoured by the moon pupil bit by bit. It was only when he obtained the heaven peeking eye technique in the Langya celestial realm that he suppressed the power of the moon pupil and used it for his own use. Furthermore, Tianxi had once said that his life could only continue if he obtained the moon pupil. Although the crux of the matter was still unknown, Tianxi would definitely come looking for him again. However, it would be extremely difficult to find him in the vast heavenly martial continent. Moreover, he didn't know what kind of existence and situation the ancestral spirits returning to the void was. Since it was an existence that created Tianxi, it couldn't be simple. However, after so many years, did the sinkhole still retain its will and live? Or was there only his subconsciousness and body left? Yunxiao had sorted out all kinds of things and all kinds of questions, but he kept them at the bottom of his heart and waited for them to be solved slowly in the future. The only thing he needed to do now was to become stronger as soon as possible and recover to the peak of his power in his previous life. Lord Yunxiao's talent is unrivaled in both ancient and modern times. In the future, he'll definitely be a great figure who can rule the world like a titled martial sovereign. A Nine Heavens martial sovereign is just the beginning. Shuai Junwei did not blame Yunxiao for his rude behavior, but continued to flatter him with a smile. He was really shocked by Yunxiao's talent. Unless you can completely kill him now, he will definitely be in existence you can't afford to offend in time. If he didn't properly receive the flattery now and left a shadow of displeasure on the other party, the Shuai family would be in trouble when he recalled it after he became a peerless martial sovereign. As the saying went, one should not hit a smiling person. Yunxiao was not completely unreasonable, so he said, "Thank you for helping me just now. If not for the uncle and nephew from the Xian family, I wouldn't have been able to advance to the martial supreme realm so easily." Shuai Junwei relaxed and immediately smiled. He said in a clear voice, "Lord Yunxiao is too polite. Even if I don't make a move, how can those two jumping clowns be Lord Yunxiao's enemy? I've long found them unpleasant to the eye, so this time, my Shuai family should be thanking Lord Yunxiao." What Shuai Junwei said was true. He had taken this opportunity to unify Long Valley City, and he was indeed very grateful to Yunxiao. However, the first half of his flattery was a little over the top. Xian Shouxing was a 6 stars martial emperor, and Yunxiao had no chance of winning at all, but it would be difficult for him to kill him. The clown has been killed. If you don't mind, Lord Yunxiao, please come to my humble home for a small gathering. I'll do my best to be a good host, said Shuai Junwei. What day is it now? Yunxiao asked with a frown. What day is it? He remembered that he had an appointment with Baiming Liifeng and the East Sea. He also had the intention to explore the ruins of the Imperial Palace, so he couldn't miss the time. After Shuai Junwei informed him, he found out that there was more than a month left. This place was also in the eastern region, not far from Haitian town. It only took a few short distance teleportations to get there. However, he was not in the mood for a tea gathering. He immediately said, "I still have matters to attend to, so I can't stay for long. I'll remember your hospitality, and we'll meet again when we have time." He no longer paid attention to Shuai Junwei's invitation and turned around to leave. Suddenly, he saw Ziling looking up at him. Ziling's face was blank, and she stood in the crowd of people from Ink Feather Merchant Association like a wooden man. Yunxiao stopped, turned around, and said, "Lord Junwei, I have a request." "I have a friend," Yunxiao said. "I hope Lord Junwei can take good care of him." Shuai Junwei was stunned for a moment before he patted his chest and said, "May I know who Sir Yunxiao's friend is?" "Please rest assured, Lord Yunxiao. As long as your friend is in Long Valley City, no one will dare to touch him unless I, Shuai Junwei, die." "Thank you for your trouble," Yunxiao said. "My friend is down there." He flew down first and came to Ziling. He said to Shuai Junwei, "This is my friend, I'll have to trouble Lord Junwei to take care of him." In this world where the strong preyed on the weak, there were countless girls like Ziling. They were even more dangerous than ordinary male martial artists. Once they were unlucky, they would fall into the hands of perverts like Xian Tongtong. Ziling was stunned on the spot. The conversation between the two was not deliberately hidden, and all the warriors heard it clearly. She did not expect that the so-called friend would actually be her friends. Ziling only felt a little dizzy and could not stand steadily. The #1 rising star of the heavenly martial continent, the revered martial emperor, and even the Shuai family's master had to fawn over him. How could he say that he was his friend? Not only did Ziling faint, but the entire Ink Feather Merchant Association was also drunk. Shuai Junwei looked suspicious. Obviously, he didn't know Ziling, nor anyone from Ink Feather Merchant Association. At this moment, Shuai Xingqiao hurried forward and explained in a low voice to the patriarch. Only then did Shuai Junwei come to a realization. He patted his chest and said, "In the future, this Long Valley City will be Lady Ziling's home." He then took out a golden token and stuffed it into Ziling's hand. "This is the gold token of my Shuai family. Seeing this token is like seeing me in person. There will be no obstacles in Long Valley City, and I can mobilize all the experts in the city at any time. I can kill anyone I don't like. Ziling was shocked. She shivered and almost dropped the token to the ground. She felt a burst of heat in her hand and it was extremely heavy. She almost exhausted all her strength and could not catch it. Madame G had also completely lost her composure. Even she, who had always been calm and steady, found it difficult to breathe. Ziling might not know the importance of this, but she understood that this was the highest token of the Shui family. The person holding this token was like the family master himself, it was a real order of power. It could be said that with this token, Ziling would instantly become one of the most powerful people in Long Valley City. Ziling's face was red with anxiety, and she only spoke after a while, this token is too precious. I can't take it. Shui Junwei pretended to be angry and said, if Lady Ziling doesn't accept it, then you're not giving me face and looking down on my Shui family. Ziling put the token away in fear and trepidation. She did not dare to look down on the Shui family, and she knew in her heart that this great fortune had nothing to do with the Shui family, but was brought to her by Yun Xiao. She stole a glance at Yun Xiao, and her cheeks immediately blushed, her eyes filled with gratitude. Yun Xiao smiled and said, take this token. It's a little token from Lord Junwei. If you encounter any difficulties in the future, you can come to Long Valley City and ask Lord Junwei for help. Lord Yun Xiao is extremely right. When Shui Junwei saw Ziling accept the token, he was very happy. He laughed and said, my Shui family still has a bit of power in Long Valley City, so everyone will more or less give us some face. Thank you, Lord Yun Xiao, Ziling said gratefully. Thank you, Lord Junwei. The people of Ink Feather Merchant Association all looked at Ziling with envy. They knew that from now on, there was an insurmountable gap between them. Even his wife was surprised and happy. The way she looked at Ziling had completely changed. The other three maidservants were even more envious of Ziling's good luck. Originally, they also had such an opportunity, but they had missed it. The opportunity to change their fate had been missed. They were so regretful that their intestines turned green. Hong Shan gritted her teeth, mustered up great courage, and suddenly said, thank you Lord Yunxiao for your concern for my sister Ziling. Have Lord Yunxiao's injuries recovered? However, Hong Shan was worried for a few days and couldn't sleep all night. It seems that during this period of time, the medicine that Sister Ziling and I gave to Lord Yunxiao every day is still effective. This time, Hong Shan's heart is completely at ease. With a coquettish look on her face, she looked at Yun Xiao with a burning gaze and bit her red lip. Bai Yun and Qing Chui both felt a little dizzy. This Hong Shan was too eloquent and too good at taking credit for it. Madame G didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and her face immediately darkened. Yun Xiao turned a deaf ear to her, as if she did not exist. He turned to Ziling and said, many thanks to Lady Ziling for taking care of me these past few days. If I have time in the future, I will return to Long Valley City to see you. Hong Shan's face turned white. She knew that she would not have any chance at all. The biggest opportunity in her life was lost. She looked at Ziling's eyes, and there was a strong fire of jealousy. When Ziling knew that Yun Xiao was leaving, for some reason, she suddenly felt an infinite sense of loss and emptiness in her heart. She wanted him to stay, but she knew that he would not. Because he was the world's #1 rising star, and she was only a maidservant of Ink Feather Merchant Association. Even if the Shui family was supporting her at this moment, it was only because of his face. The gap between the two was like a natural chasm that simply could not be crossed. Thinking of this, Ziling's empty heart seemed to feel a little better. She hurriedly smiled and said, then, I'll wait for Lord Yunxiao to visit me in Long Valley City. Yunxiao smiled and gently patted Ziling's head. This action was like an elder looking at his child, but when Yunxiao did it, it seemed a little funny. After all, he was only about the same age as Ziling. You're not in a hurry to leave, Lord Yunxiao, Shui Junwei said with a smile. I have something to discuss with you. Yunxiao's eyes flickered with a trace of displeasure. He was not in the mood to negotiate with Shuai Junwei, but since he had given Ziling to the Shuai family, he could not turn them down. What's the matter? Shuai Junwei chuckled, and as if he was afraid of being heard by others, he sent a voice transmission over. I saw that when Lord Yunxiao broke through to the martial supreme realm, his body was shining with a golden light. It seems like he has cultivated some kind of body tempering technique. Yunxiao's pupils constricted, and the look in his eyes immediately turned fierce. Although the tyrant body tempering technique had changed a lot in his hands, its appearance was still the same as before. Although not everyone had seen Ao Chongkong's body tempering technique, they had more or less heard of it. Shuai Junwei was shocked by his gaze, and he quickly said, Lord Yunxiao, please don't misunderstand. I have no intention of peeking at that body refining technique. I just have a matter that I want to discuss with you. Yunxiao knew that he was wrong, so he said indifferently, what's the matter? Recently, someone discovered a mysterious place more than 300,000 miles away from Long Valley City, Shuai Junwei said through voice transmission. According to the investigation, it's the place where a world-famous Almighty transformed. As that place was on the border between Long Valley City and Earth Dragon City, the relationship between the two cities was highly tense. I've also negotiated with the major powers of the Earth Dragon City with the Xian family, and we plan to explore that place together. Yunxiao immediately understood the key point when he heard that. Are you afraid that the Xian family has been destroyed and you can't fight against the power of the Earth Dragon City by yourself, so you want me to help you? Shuai Junwei's thoughts were seen through, and he laughed embarrassedly. Lord Yunxiao is indeed intelligent. That's what I meant, but I definitely won't let Lord do it for nothing. I saw Lord Yunxiao display a body refining technique just now, so you're obviously an expert in this area. That Almighty also cultivated an extremely powerful body refining technique when he was alive. If we can obtain it, it might be of great help to Lord Yunxiao's cultivation. Oh. Who was the so-called Almighty? I don't know if I've heard of it. Yunxiao had no interest in this matter at first, but when he heard that it was about body tempering, his interest was immediately piqued. After all, he was now completely relying on himself to explore the body tempering art, and he could not see the way forward at all. That Almighty was an all-powerful existence thousands of years ago, Shuai Junwei said. His name is Yui Xian. I wonder if Lord Yunxiao has heard of him. What? It's actually him. Yunxiao was taken aback, and the look on his face changed several times. But, it seemed that Shuai Junwei's eyes were filled with joy, and he knew that the matter was most likely settled. Shuai Junwei took the opportunity to strike Chen Yin while he was hot. Yui Xian was a peerless expert in those days. He was an all-around talent. Not only was his cultivation extremely high, but he was also proficient in sorcery and body techniques. There are even rumors that he has entered the 10 Directions divine realm. This time, his ascendant's land has been discovered. We can find out if the ancient sages have really become gods. But in any case, there was definitely a great treasure inside. When the time comes, I'll let Lord Yunxiao choose one of the treasures to be distributed to my Long Valley City. At that moment, he became extremely generous. Whether it was for the purpose of asking Yunxiao for help or to get on his good side, this was an indispensable performance. Furthermore, once the Xian family in Long Valley City was exterminated, all of their properties would belong to him. The benefits from this would probably be greater than all the treasures left behind by Yui Xian. "Right," Yunxiao said without hesitation. "I'll go with you. The sooner the better. It'll be soon." Shuai Junwei was overjoyed. It's an urgent matter. If it weren't for the sudden change in Long Valley City, I would have been preparing for it. It'll take another 4 hours at most. That's good, Yunxiao said. Shuai Junwei immediately began to make arrangements. First, they would annihilate the remnants of the Xian family as soon as possible, and at the same time, they would entertain Yunxiao with high hospitality. At Ziling's request, the entire Ink Feather Trade Union would be settled. Yunxiao also took the opportunity to enter the Divine Realm tablet to cultivate and stabilize his realm. After all, he had just broken through to the Martial Emperor realm, and his current cultivation base and body were far stronger than those of the same level in his previous life. 2 days later, everything in Long Valley City settled down. In the teleportation zone controlled by the Shui family, more than 10 people were divided into 2 groups and entered the formation, teleporting 300,000 miles away from the city.